We're leaving now. Consider your contract cancelled.
Well, ain't that just a surprise? Not. So recently, and I'm a little bit late to the news, but recently we just got an update from the BBC about the future of Doctor Who. And it's something I'm actually quite excited about, to be honest. You see, I couldn't quite fathom how they were going to do this Christmas special. And everything was just screaming towards it being a disaster anyway, because it was just going to be a nostalgia fest. If it wasn't going to be David Tennant coming back, it was going to be Billie Piper, and there was the possibility that it could have been both. There could have been more doctors there. Yeah, I don't think it was right for the fans, and I'm actually really, really glad that they have cancelled the plans for that Christmas special, giving themselves more time to focus on the actual show itself and what's important to the show and how they can bring it back at its best. It's really, really sad to see that RTD is gone, and Badwell Studios is also gone, and Jane Tranter's also gone, and everybody else is also gone from the show. So basically, the show is back at the very, very, very beginning. It's basically back at a pitch. It's back at an idea with, obviously, years of proof of what it can be. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think I've ever actually seen a show go through this before, where it basically gets decommissioned so that it can be built up from the ground again to become its strongest version of itself. Now, there's a lot that comes with this being cancelled, or technically put on hiatus, because that's essentially what's happened. So the Christmas special itself has been cancelled, but Doctor Who as a show has not been cancelled, so technically just been put on a little break. They need to go out and they need to find new outsourcing partners who can work with the BBC to make this show. They also need to find a new showrunner. They need to find a new doctor. They need to find out how they're going to write the scripts for this. Is it going to be a writer's room? Is it going to be leaning on one person? Now, I like the idea of having the showrunner watching over continuity, making sure everything makes sense for the full series. But I also really, really like the idea of them maybe potentially bringing in a writer's room, similar to the way that they kind of run shows in America. Whereas with Doctor Who, the show kind of lands on the showrunner or the head writer, because that's essentially what they are. They aren't really a showrunner, they just get called that. But like RTD, Stephen Moffat, Chibnall, they were all head writers of the show. And it was their responsibility to make sure that the show run efficiently and every episode kind of made sense in the series arc. However, it'll be interesting to see how they actually come back with this and like kind of what the plans are for the show, because everything's going to basically just be starting afresh. So are they going to come back and address the end of the last season, or are they just going to completely wipe that clean? By the sounds of it, they're going to wipe it clean, because RTD has says that they had to do something drastic very quickly to ensure the future of the show, which is very RTD. It's something that he would do, and it worked. Like, they had planned the Christmas special, or never planned the Christmas special, but threw the idea of the Christmas special around to ensure that the Doctor continued its the adventures. And with having that face show up at the end, there was no way the BBC could say no to a Christmas special. So it kind of worked. But now that RTD has actually stuck around with Doctor Who. I mean, the guy was leaving, he could have left by now, but he's actually stuck around with Doctor Who to ensure that it has actually got a future. And you've got to applaud him for that, because he's basically hung around there for no reason, knowing that he wasn't staying on. But he's made sure that Doctor Who had a future. And if it didn't have a future, I think he would have stepped back in to take over, just to continue the show if the BBC were allowing that. So yeah, it's very, very nice of him to do that. But it's sad to see that whole team go as well. Knowing how much that RTD loves Doctor Who, I'm sure it's quite hard for him to leave for a second time. I know it was hard for him to leave for the first time, but it's probably harder for him to leave this time, considering he says that he had so much plans for seasons up to 5 maybe, and we won't get to see any of those stories, which a lot of the fans, I'm not going to doubt, a lot of the fans are probably really, really happy about that. But yeah, looking back at the last 2 seasons, there were some good episodes in there. There was some gems, but it wasn't great. I've actually recently started watching Jodie Whittaker's era over again, and I've watched the first series, well, the 11th series, and just finishing up the 12th series now. And looking at that compared to the Disney era, those three series are like some of the most hated Doctor Who, and they actually are really, really good stories. The thing that I keep whittling it down to people hating so much is the pacing. The pacing of those series seem to be very, very slow, which I'm not going to lie, I actually kind of enjoy. It gives you a little bit of time to enjoy the episode. I feel like if the pacing of the last two series was similar in length to those episodes, it maybe have helped a little bit. I mean, that extra 5-10 minutes of screen time actually helps space out a story a little bit better. But yeah, that means that potentially no Doctor Who for a while, and we don't actually know how long because the BBC have not said anything. So you could be looking at no Doctor Who until 2028, never mind 2027. You could be looking at no Doctor Who until 2029, 2030. It just depends on how long they want to take the show off the air and actually work with people to reinvent the show. I mean, we're talking about Doctor Who coming back here in a way that none of us expect, in a way that if we watch the show, we might not even recognise it anymore. RTD did mention in his Instagram post, what are they going to change? Are they going to get rid of the blue box? Are they going to change the theme tune? I don't imagine that the theme tune or the blue box will actually disappear, because those are like core recognisable elements for Doctor Who. But it will be interesting to see how the show comes back for a new generation and how they actually manage to make it work. One thing that I really think would work is the serialized storytelling. And by that, I mean something similar to the way that Flux was done. Because Flux was done in a very, very clever way where it still kind of gave you the monster of the week, but it also gave you an overarching story for the full series. And I know it was only 6 episodes long, but we're already down to 8 episodes, so I don't see them going back up to being 12 or 14 episodes a season. I just don't see that. Yeah, I think the approach for Flux is probably the meet me halfway mark, where we get 6 episodes of Doctor Who. It's an overarching storyline for the full thing, so it isn't just like Doctor Who series 1. It's Doctor Who Flux or Doctor Who whatever the overall arcing story is for that series. I mean, this all depends on the people that they decide to bring in to run this show. I mean, if they can't even get anyone to come in and run the show, that's the question. Because I know the problem before was something along the lines of people that needed to know Doctor Who lore. So that's why we got Chibnall, we had Stephen, we had RTD, because it makes it very easy for them to be able to call upon the lore and actually write episodes and series that make sense for this show. But I think the general idea here is to bring it back afresh. So everything that came before is probably just not even going to really be relevant anymore. The core elements, I imagine, would stay, so like regeneration, all that kind of stuff. But it would be nice probably for them to start the series afresh, like from the very beginning, rewrite the lore. I don't care, give us fresh. Go back to the very first Doctor. Start it with the Timeless Child stuff if you need to, so that lore is baked into the very, very first episode. And then that way you're not rewriting the full history of a show that's over 60 years old. But yeah, I genuinely, I don't know what's to come for Doctor Who, and I just hope that it's not another Wilderness Years. I hope that we don't get some random TV movie that just won't make sense in the long run. I really, really think that for this new era of Doctor Who to get off to a strong start, they really need to pick a strong Doctor as well. They need to pick an actor or an actress that is strong, that will do what Christopher Eccleston managed to do and connect with the audiences immediately. They need to make sure that the companion is strong. Don't overrun the TARDIS with companions. 3 companions is a bit much. I like the dynamic between just the Doctor and Rose, but I think it would be cool to bring it back and start it off with maybe just the Doctor adventuring for a while. The Doctor on their own. Then later in that season, they could meet their companion. It allows time for the new audience and the old audience to get to know this new Doctor as well. The way that this new show works, I don't know. It could come back as a completely restructured show, and it's scary to think about because obviously with Doctor Who at the moment, there's a comfort of knowing what you're getting when you watch the show. But like going into watching Doctor Who and not actually knowing what you're going to see, like not knowing if you're going to like it, not knowing if it's still going to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart. I mean, I suppose we always have the 2005 revival era to go back to if we don't like it, but I mean, you can only watch those episodes so many times. I don't know fully how I feel about this new era of Doctor Who yet. I think once we start getting updates and stuff and we start to understand kind of what that looks like, there will be discussions on it in the fandom. I can guarantee that much. But I mean, in the meantime, we have the Harry Potter series to look forward to. So, yeah, there is something that can keep us busy on our TVs, at least, if you're into Harry Potter. I was actually contemplating covering the new Harry Potter series on this channel. I just don't know if I can or not. What do you guys think about that? Let me know down in the comments if you would like me to do those series as well. Actually, just completing the last book just now, so I've read all the books and I've loved Harry Potter for probably just as long as I've loved Doctor Who. But for me, I'm actually welcoming it. I'm bring it on, like change the full show, make it new, make it brighter, make it darker. For God's sake, please make it darker. Anything darker than the last two seasons would be great, thank you, because that was just too bubbly, it was too fun, it was too joyful. There wasn't enough seriousness in those two series, and I think that was part of its downfall. There just wasn't, it wasn't what we had become accustomed to as fans as well, because going through the Stephen Moffat era, the show got darker as it went on, and then going into Chibnall's era, it was actually quite a dark series, well, 3 series as well. And then you go from that straight into Russell's first episode, which is Space Babies, and that just sets up the series from there on as light, bubbly, and not serious. And I think that was a big part of its downfall as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Where would you really like to see this show go? Because this is a big, massive turning point. It is huge, and not very many shows, as I say, I don't think I've ever heard of a show do this, but not very many shows, I would imagine, get this treatment. I mean, Doctor Who is actually getting special treatment because of the type of show it is, because of how good the IP is for the BBC, because they can't really afford to lose it. I mean, they're technically losing it by not having it on air, but yeah. I'm actually happy that they didn't go ahead with the Christmas special or Easter special if it was going to become that, because I feel like it would have just been another disaster and it would have probably just hurt the show more than it would have helped. I mean, we don't really need that bridge episode between this and the new era. We could happily start afresh. I mean, to connect those, I did see someone in a comment somewhere, I can't remember who it was, but they did mention something about the Doctor potentially phasing through a few different faces before landing on the actual Doctor. So that's how the new season or the new series, the new era could start. The Doctor just phases through multiple different faces, maybe even some old ones just for nostalgia, before landing on the true next Doctor, if they want to continue it from Doctor 15 into 16. But I think it would actually be a really, really wise idea to start at Doctor number 1 again, and maybe completely get rid of the numbering system, which I know a lot of people don't like, but we don't need the numbering system in order to refer to the Doctors because we have the actors' real names and you can always refer to them that way. And to be honest, the numbering system's kind of out the window at this point after Timeless Child arc. So yeah, we don't even know what number the Doctor technically is because the 11th Doctor could technically be the 111th Doctor. We just don't know. So yeah, there's a lot that they could change with the show. And I'm just excited to see what they decide to do from here.